and trees bear a strange fruit. Blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black
We're here in front of the 16th Street Baptist Church here in Birmingham, Alabama. This is the site, 1963. 4 girls were burned up by white supremacists in the basement of this church. We're here just to honor their memory, to mark this historic site, and to say that the struggle continues for black liberation, for self-determination of the new African people, and resistance to white supremacy. So this was actually made into a memorial so that this whole area is actually preserved by the federal government. So here we have Addie Mae Collins, Denise McNair, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Wesley. Just want to give a little moment of silence, especially given that this was on September 15th. So we want to encourage everybody to remember the losses that we had during the civil rights movement, but also remember the growing tree of resistance that sprouted in its wake. Can't stop, won't stop.
Born April the 18th, 49. Born April the 24th, 49. April the 30th, 49. And see, this is the downtown affluent community. That same day, there was 2 boys that was shot in the back. And their pictures is on the bench over there also.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us the story with what happened with them?
Well, the Ku Klux Klan and the white supremacists went up the hills to Fountain Heights, where you see the tree line right there, and shot a boy in the back. His name was Johnny Robinson, and went out to Smithfield and shot a guy in the chest twice. His name was Virgil Ware, and that was September the 15th. Condoleezza Rice, when she went for George W. Bush, she brought this memorial. I was 13 when this happened. And all the windows on this side was broken, except for this one right here. This was the one of the Good Shepherd knocking on the door. It stayed intact. Now there used to be a flight of steps that went up to that little short window right there, at the top. And that's where you would climb those stairs, walk up those stairs, and open that door, and you'll be in the upper sanctuary. And you come down those stairs, go up under the stairs, make 2 steps down, and the door was right there where the bomb was placed. And that's where the bomb was placed, right in front of the door. Up under the steps. This is a Baptist church. This is the church that Fred Shuttlesworth invited Martin to come to. And this is the church he introduced Martin Luther King to Birmingham. Most people think Martin came because of the 4 girls. Martin had already came and was gone by the time the 4 girls was killed. Girls was killed in September. Martin was here in April and May. Now let me show you some more things about this church. Tell you a few things about this church. First, most people in the 5 southern states are Baptists. Notice it's not just a cross. If you look very carefully at that, it's a key also, you see it? You see the key? Jesus Christ is the key. When we fellowship with Jesus Christ, we become their sisters and brothers. And that was September the 15th, 1963. Invited Martin, and this is the platform where he chose to introduce Martin to Birmingham.
And what year was that he invited him?
He invited him in 1963. But he invited him in 60, 61, 62, 63. The SCLC thought it was too dangerous for Martin to come here. Martin was a very charismatic speaker. He was very popular during the late 50s and early 60s. He was only 34 years of age when he first came here. And almost to the same day that he was introduced here, 5 years later he was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. motel that looked just like the A.G. Gaston motel where he was arrested. I have my own conspiracy theory. I believe they wanted to kill Martin Luther King in 1963, right here in Birmingham. If it doesn't be for the hordes of people always around Martin while he was here, the marksman could have pulled that trigger. But if you could see some of the pictures where Martin was here, it was always thousands of people around Martin, even while he slept in his motel room. But when he went to Memphis and stepped out on that balcony that day, the second time to Memphis, they shot him to death. This here sums it all the way up. Come on up so you can get a good look at this. Let me tell you what this is. Okay. This is the park on Palm Sunday, the most religious holiday on the Christian calendar. They released tear gas, billy clubs, water hose, and dogs. 12 attack dogs cleared that park all the way from 17th Street all the way back across 16th Street to in front of this building right here. This building is the Civil Rights Institute. But before, it was a two-story apartment building. Everybody rushed out the car and got in that yard. That was two-story apartment. Kids drew pictures, and these pictures stayed in the archives for a long time. The guy pulled them out, showed them to his architect friend, and they did this with it. They remember the firemen that day. They remember the dogs. People running through the park, running from dogs, tear gas, billy clubs, water hoses. People going to jail, the dog attacks. We couldn't eat at the same mushroom camp. They remember the no job sign, the white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, the devil. And most of the time the bombings in Birmingham, if someone would take a stick of dynamite, stick it down in some gasoline, light the field, it always was fires behind the bombing. Fred Shuttlesworth Church had been bombed in 1956, 57, 58, 59, and 60. I was 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and I do remember. On 2 of those occasions, it was just the same. This church is Bethel Church. This church is, if you get my means, is across the railroad track in the predominant black community. So this was the downtown effect. Thousands was arrested, beaten, injured, and jailed. That is amazing that the way they did that. And then September, the 4 girls. But they don't mention the 2 boys, Johnny and Virgil. And they don't mention Sarah. Sarah was a survivor. Sarah opened the bathroom door at exactly 10:22. Well, Sarah was running scout that day, and when the pastor normally come out of his study and put on the marquees what he was going to preach on, it's time for the doors of the church to open, which would be 10:30. And Sarah saw the pastor come downstairs, put on the marquees, and the title of that sermon, here are the 2 boys, Johnny and Virgil. That's why there is six doves. That was on the marquees to be preached that day. And love and forgive. Now, this girl here, she survived. Yes, this girl here survived. Now, back in the 50s and 60s, if you went to Sunday school, you take your attendance slip upstairs, and you could be selected to be on the welcome committee. That's what these girls was. Sarah was running scout, so when the preacher went downstairs and put that on the thing, she come running down the hallway, and now this girl is Sarah's sister. This girl is this is Sarah Collins, and this is Adelaide Collins. Sarah come down the hallway, and was calling and said, well, it's time. It's 10:22. And he done put that sermon up. At 10:30, the doors of the church opened. So the girls were going to be in position at 10:30 when the doors of the church was open. As Sarah opened the bathroom door, the explosion happened. Sarah lost her eye. She lost her right eye because the debris hit her in the right eye, and the concussion stopped her momentum. The concussion stopped her momentum from stepping across the threshold into the bathroom, pushed her back across the hall. She hit her head and she survived. But this is what she saw of her sister and their 3 friends. And she told the sculpture, she said, Cynthia was sitting at the front of the couch. Denise had kicked her shoes off and was standing in the center of the couch. And she said, I meant to tell my sister what my mom had been telling her all the time. Addie Mae, keep your glasses on because you know you can't see. Here's her glasses. She never did say that to me. And this girl had jumped up off the couch and said, don't y'all hear Sarah calling? She said, shit, that's the last thing she heard Carol say. Don't y'all hear Sarah calling? Come on, let's go, it's time to go. And that's when the explosion happened. And that day, about 1:30, when they had finally identified these 4 girls, everybody moved in close to the church. That's why they got down here. And then they get the news of Johnny and Virgil. Women was already deeply weeping, but then there come a wail from deep inside them. I'm back and you just stand there and cry. I just cry. It was sad. But these girls had been friends all their lives, and they was all friends to Condoleezza Rice. And here is Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was a very charismatic speaker, man. This guy, he would galvanize you with his words, his presence. It was one of those presents, you know, where you meet a person and you won't ever forget him again. That's the way Martin was. You know, that's why he was so overshadowing with Fred Shuttleworth and Ralph Abernathy. You didn't hear much about other people, no more than the 4 girls and Martin. You didn't hear about the 2 boys, Sarah, Spike Lee, and all the other people who come down from Birmingham doing this. Spike Lee did a movie years later, 4 little girls, but he didn't mention Sarah or the 2 boys. They named this the Freedom Walk. Now, you thought that what we do it, passing on down to the kids. Say Freedom Walk. Now, here are the actual bars that Martin Luther King wrote. He wrote a letter to President John F. Kennedy, and he wrote a letter to clergies, and he sent a note to kids. But in that letter to John F. Kennedy, he asked a famous question. He said, John, how can you be commander-in-chief and allow segregation to rob people of their civil liberties in the South? He said, John, don't you know segregation is a sin and would turn the world upside down? How cool is this up here?
Oh, yeah.
Look at this. See what it says? It says segregation is a sin and it's upside down. John, don't you know segregation is a sin and will turn the world upside down? That is that famous quote from the famous letter to John F. Kennedy, written from behind the actual bars from the city of Birmingham jail. And he sent this note to the kids. And how did this work? The kids would get enthused and they would raise their hand in school, ask permission to skip, and would say to the teacher, I ain't afraid to go to jail. And we would have our toothbrush in anticipation of going to jail. Martin knew that Bull Connor would send kids to jail, and he did exactly that. How do you arrest 600 kids? Don't you know he could hold them kids? He could arrest them, but he wasn't gonna hold them. And so the next day, it was 1,000 here, 1,000 Lane, 1,000 South Side, East Side, 1,000 kids was all over the city. So he couldn't arrest them all. So too many kids. dedication to the kids who would come down, who would sign their name on a piece of paper, on a 10-statement pledge, saying that they would not pick up bottles, they wouldn't pick up rocks, they wouldn't spit, they wouldn't curse, they wouldn't ball their fists up, they would say derogatory, they 10-statement pledge of peace. This guy had surrendered to peace, his hands are back. Beast, man, or unjust law could not steal his peace. They was the fodder in the advance against injustice. They represented humanity, and as our Constitution says for all, but they had to face attack dogs, high-powered water hoses, and bombers. This word, fodder, I would use it, they was the fuel and feed in the advance against injustice. They represented one cause, humanity, and for all. This picture is not the picture that John F. Kennedy broke in on the news that same Sunday, which was Palm Sunday. Here is the picture that he broke in on the news and was so disgusted about. Watch this, watch them pretty toes. Okay, here is the picture. Look how resembled this picture is of this one. But this is not the same picture. It just resembles this picture. This is a picture, this is a roadblock. If you turn and look at that intersection there, that's what that roadblock is. This guy walked past. If you went past these roadblocks, you were surely going to jail. He went and grabbed this guy, and he tried to pull him across. The guy put his knee up on the roadblock, keep him being pulled over. The guy ordered the dog jumped up off the ground, jumped up on the roadblock, and then did it. See how resembled this is? This picture, John F. Kennedy broke in on the news and said, the picture from the civil rights movement has sickened into my core. And soon after that, on November the 22nd, 1963, something happened in Dallas. What happened?
He was assassinated.
He was assassinated because from April to November, John and Martin had been to the mall, and that I Have a Dream speech that he spoke on here. Here is a motel that Martin, Fred, and Abernathy was arrested Friday, and that was Good Friday. That Sunday was Palm Sunday, where they released all the dogs and stuff. The picture I showed you over there in the yard, where the people would run out of this yard. Everybody congregated right over here in front of this building. And this building here was a 2-story apartment building. Come to this. Here are these attack dogs. It was 12 of them that cleared this part across this way. There would be roadblocks there and roadblocks here. Most of those protests that you saw from the documentary during the civil rights era, they went down that side of the street over there and that side of the avenue over there. We would go into the commerce area that way and into the retail area, the stores and stuff. But here are the dogs. Most of these tactics was like what the terrorists would do to put fear in people. But Martin Luther King and them had an ace up their sleeves. They had some brave kids that did not get disturbed by these dogs. Or by really Ground Zero. This Ground Zero is to say Alabama is the bedrock. It said Birmingham, Alabama was considered the most segregated city. Both city and state created legal codes that strictly ban all social contact between blacks and whites. Birmingham, Alabama was the bedrock of hatred, intolerance, and discrimination. And Martin said, until we break that bedrock here, injustice was going to be everywhere. There might be seen as the world has changed, but as our commander-in-chief are getting immigrants and separating them, putting the kids in detention center, it's the same thing in 63. What Bull Connor was saying. The more things appear to change, the more they stay the same. We have to learn that we won't ever change the world from the outside. You have a greater revelation of change when you change yourself from inside. When you have a better quality of choices from inside. We used to call this the freedom park. So we rededicated the park, like you're trying to rededicate the bridge in Selma, the Edith Pettis Bridge. Now the new name of the park is Place of Revolution and Reconciliation. The other three preachers that kneel and prayed that day. And most people would think one of these are Martin, Fred, and Appleton. No. These were the three preachers that was in the crowd that day. Martin, Fred, and Appleton was already in jail. This is N.A. Smith, this is John T. Porter, and this one is A.D. King, Martin brother.
Can you tell us a little bit about the significance of that hotel, given the context of these events happening?
Sure. The whole idea was that Martin stayed there, and that's where they organized the meetings.
Yes.
They would have the press conferences there. He stayed there, and they fed him and took care of him while he was in town right there. That hotel had everything, had full service. So that's why he could stay there. And the bomb went off at the door on the back side of the kitchen, because the room they was using as their war room was actually above it. But at night, Martin would go to another room later on and sleep, so that he wasn't in the area when the bomb went off.
He had a pharmacy there. Like I said, it was like the little black Wall Street of Oklahoma City, because it was a downtown. And I mean, there was people. I do remember riding the trolley to Rickwood Field. And Rickwood Field is the oldest regulated ball diamond in the country. And a lot of people don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah. I can still remember the smell of popcorn, hot dog, cotton candy, as a toddler, you know. And I remember riding down this track, this coming down on that trolley, and when you could stick your head out and see that big old train station come into view. My mom, it always cost me a slap on the butt. Put your head back in the window. Of course, time she hit me, I take it right back out there. But a lot of people hadn't heard of this girl right here. Her name is Anne Frank. She was the Jewish girl that was running from Nazi Germany. Kind of like what was going on here. Over there, Hitler was trying to exterminate all the Jews. Here, they didn't want African Americans and white Americans to socialize. And Hitler was exterminating the Jews. He was just trying to make us feel as if we was less than. But that wasn't so good to everybody. So here we are, these powerful water cannons, but they got a special apparatus that they'll put on a fireman hose, especially like when the fire is a long distance away or way up top somewhere. And when you put these apparatuses on a fireman hose, at 100 feet, you could knock a brick out of the wall. At 25 feet, it'll make the bark on this tree soft as cotton nail. Soft as cotton. You peel it off. Imagine what it would do to your skin. They call them water cannons. And this close to this is not off your feet. The way they got them mounted, and stuff like that. And it's really called a water cannon. From across the street, these water cannons would pelt you. It would tear your clothes. See, some of the bigger kids are trying to shed the smaller kids. That is something. It was happening a few weeks ago.
And what was the statue of?
In the Land Park. It's a park right here on the other side of these buildings called Land Park. And Land Park was probably the first park where they lynched someone in Jefferson County. Well, it was called Jones Valley back then. And the Tuckweiler Hotel, I think the Tuckweiler Hotel was on when campaigns for the early president, I think when they come south, it was the second stop in the south for presidents, the Tuckweiler. If you really kind of read your history, go back when they was campaigning by train.
And what was the statue of?
The statue was one of those daughters of the Confederacy. Yeah, one of those Confederacy.
How do we cope when we don't love each other? Where is the hope?